But to my understanding from what you said in the very beginning, that you wanted to be very clear with the journalists that you're not getting rid of Unitopia. They're just two separate things that you do alongside each other. Correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Sean will do his side project.
Mm-hmm. You'll do the UPF side project, and together you'll do Unitopia.
Yeah, it's no different to any other band that had taken a break. I mean, Flatwings took a 6 years break, and then they went off and did Agents of Mercy's, Car Mechanics, Transatlantic, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
It's just about releasing yourself in another area and working with other musicians. I'm fortunate enough to be working with some brilliant musicians. And
you have a nice lineup. That's definitely true.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and the sound is really nice. It's very moving and very inspirational, and I think that it's, yeah. Once you also combine it with the project and the message, and if you get enough people on board to help, you know, when you look back on this, even if it's just a small change for the good, every little bit helps.
It's like when I go and visit people when I'm talking about saving energy, I said, just if we all contribute one little tiny bit, it's going to make a difference.
Yeah.
What we intend to do is have reps in each of the countries and get those reps to sell the shows.
As in promoting the fraternity, you mean, or for promoting the concert for the next time you come out for concerts?
Promoting both.
Okay.
So, you know, the theme of each show would represent a charity, whether it be UNICEF or Red Cross, whichever it may be. But there are so many of them. And then getting a sponsor to also sponsor the actual charity.
Yeah.
So that 50% of go to the charity, and each song represents a particular charity. And they, like, for instance, the water represents the Water Alliance of the world.
Yeah.
So you're focusing on those sorts of things. So what it does, then it becomes more of a unity, and which is really what I've always liked about what we did in Unitopia. But the difference with Unitopia was just the band. This is actually more about a forum that can actually bring musicians, people like you and I together to promote the ideas of, making the world a much better place to live. There's certainly a value to people to understand that, you know, I sometimes scratch my head and I talk to this with my wife. I say, you know, we've got all this water in parts of the world and we don't know, we've got all the technology in the world and we can't channel it. I don't understand it. And it doesn't make any sense. It's the same with food. We get involved in politics and all those things, and you wonder, we can feed the world 100 million times over because there's that much wastage of food, and yet we don't, because it's all to do with politics and economics and all those sorts of things, and yet we don't put those aside and say, well, let's just do this, let's make this happen. We just don't do it. So I'm very open to certainly helping in that area. That would be terrific. So while I'm here, I'm sort of taking the opportunity to reflect on what happened at the border with losing out on playing 3 shows.
Yeah, what happened with that? What was that about?
It was very hard to take because we came in 2010 with Unitopia, and the same 4 boys, or same 3 boys, there were 4 in 2010, were held up for about 15 minutes because the ruling was that we weren't allowed to be playing any paid gigs, which they weren't. It was a promotional thing. And so that all worked, and that worked even when we went across to the Netherlands 4 years ago. When we came back, we just walked straight through. There was no problems. When 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But all was good. They went through, no problems. Now, coming back from the Netherlands for Eurostar, they wanted to play funny games and say that, you know, you needed a performer's permit to play. We were a bit shocked because this didn't happen the previous time, and coming in, it just didn't make sense. Why weren't we told earlier?
Yeah.
They were detained for 5 hours, and we pleaded, and for some smooth talking from Guy Manning and the emotion that we projected to the border staff, saying that these guys are completely innocent because they were treated like criminals. They were fingerprinted. Excuse me.
Yeah. They fingerprinted them as well.
Yeah, they did. Which is wrong.
That's just completely wrong.
I'll be writing to the British consulate about this because I think it's just really, I understand that they have to check everything, but I mean, at the end of the day, when the guys were, they had done nothing wrong. They hadn't even played a gig. So the only way that we could have talked them out of it was to tell them that they wouldn't play, and we assured them that they wouldn't. And so therefore they said, okay, well, we'll let them into the country, providing they are only there for touring, for
holiday or something.
Just visiting and holidaying, yes. Yeah.
That's just terrible, though, and also for the fans as well.
Yeah, yeah.
That we're expecting to see you. That's also a huge disappointment.
Well, one of the things that I really wanted to make people aware that this was really a promotional tour.
Yeah.
It wasn't a full-blown, blown-out tour. It was always going to be just do a few gigs,
Mm-hmm.
you know, attract a few people and let other people talk about what the music was about. A lot of people thought it was a more blown-out sort of tour, but it wasn't. I just want to make that very clear that it was just an introduction to the brand,
Yeah.
United Progressive Fraternity, what it stands for and so forth.
Right.
So from that perspective, that's what it achieved.